I'm still not sure about this, but I have to put it somewhere. I can't tell anyone in my real life. They'd either ask who my dealer is or call a psych ward before I finish the story. One of the guys I trained with sent me here. He swears he once saw Bigfoot stealing food from his grandma's backyard. Probably just a very hairy hobo, but whatever. He said people on this site don't laugh you out of the room, and that's why I'm here. For the record, my life was never exactly normal. I'll explain that. But things only started to spiral out of control about 2 weeks ago. Call me Max. Obviously, it's not my real name. I'm 19 years old and live in Hungary. I've been training in martial arts as long as I can remember. My earliest memory is sitting cross-legged on the carpet watching an old kung fu movie. The kind where the fighters had techniques that looked more like superpowers than something you could learn. I guess that stuck with me. My mom runs an MMA gym, so when I asked to train, she didn't hesitate to sign me up. She never pushed, asked more than once if I wanted to try something else, but I already knew this was mine. Fighting fascinated me more than anything. 2 weeks ago, at the end of a session, I was sparring with some regulars in Mom's gym. My opponent was a mountain of a man, twice my size. I dodged a kick, grabbed his leg, and lifted him clean off the ground. Anyone watching could tell I shouldn't have been able to do that. Even though I'm not a dwarf or a living skeleton, I'm definitely not tall or bulky either. My height is average at best, but most people I meet are usually taller by at least a half a head. Back to the match. I spun and tossed him out of the ring. Mom shot me that sharp look she uses, the one that means keep it together. She's the only person who knows that certain thing about me, and she's always warning me to keep myself under control. After everyone left, I waited for her to finish paperwork. I'd skipped breakfast and my stomach was gnawing. I scraped together some change and fed it into the vending machine for a protein bar. Of course, the bar jammed halfway down. I checked the room, nobody around, and pressed my palm to the glass. The bar twitched, slid loose, and dropped into the tray. For a second, it hovered an inch above my hand like it was pinned there by invisible threads. Then I grabbed it. As you can guess by now, yes, I have telekinesis. But don't picture anything big. No exploding heads or hurling cars across parking lots, just floating small objects. Touch is where it gets different. Remember the fight earlier? I used my power on that guy. No, it wasn't super strength. I don't get stronger. The object I touch gets lighter. The heavier it is, the shorter the effect lasts. I didn't discover it in any epic or dramatic way. I found out as a kid trying to lift a garden gnome while helping Mom. One moment it was normal, in the next it was weightless. Now I know that a 4-year-old skull is harder than a garden gnome. If you're skeptical, and you should be, fair. But if you don't believe me, then maybe stop reading here because things are about to get even weirder. Stealing from the vending machine with telekinesis? You're the lamest supervillain I've ever seen, Mom called from the doorway of her office. She'd always known about my ability. I paid for it. It got stuck, I said, chewing. Anyway, come into my office. We need to talk. On her desk sat the aforementioned garden gnome, glued back together, looking innocent, like it had never tried to murder me. The next thing I remember after walking into her office is waking up in a place I didn't recognize. Something hard pressed into my back. My head throbbed, my vision fuzzed, and the room spun. When I managed to sit up, the world cleared enough to see I was on a bench in a locker room. Not Mom's gym locker room. This was different. A door opened and closed. I braced for the worst. I didn't expect my mother to walk in smiling like everything was normal. Good morning, sleepyhead. Mom? What the hell happened? What's the last thing you remember? She asked, calm as if this was a casual conversation over coffee. You called me into your office, then blackout. Oh, maybe Claude gave you too much of that stuff, she mused as she sat beside me. Anyhow, I told you before, you're not the only unusual person in the world. I know, you've said that before. She never clarified, just told me not to feel like a freak because there were others. Yes, but now it's time to meet some of them. That's why you're here. This is a special place where special people come to have some fun. Fun? As in, fight. And before you ask, no, it's not gladiator style where someone must die. I wanted to believe her. Meeting other people like me sounded right. But one question kept nagging. Why was I knocked out? For safety, so you don't know where we are. They do a quick medical check too. Trust me, you don't want to be awake for that. I felt nothing special. I looked down at my arm and found a small needle mark. Someone had injected me with something. Probably that's how I was knocked out. The wound pulsed, but it was the sort of dull ache that I'd learned to ignore. The door opened and a middle-aged woman in MMA gear stepped in, hands on her hips. Hey, creepy, is your son awake yet? He's up, Mom said. He needs to rest a bit, or can he come now? We're starting soon. He's ready. Great, the woman replied and left. I stood slowly. The dizziness was gone. Only the prick on my arm throbbed. Why did she call you creepy? Mom shrugged. That's my nickname. Nickname? Like a stage name? Here? Yeah, she grinned. Like the name was a badge of honor. Of course she had a past I hadn't been told about. She never said she was special, but I always felt a strange vibe from her. And creepy was your best idea? Not even close. But when the audience gives you a nickname, it sticks. I had 1,000 questions, but they all crowded at once and muddled into nothing. We left the locker room and walked down a long corridor. Ahead, where I expected another plain room, the space opened up into the entrance of an arena. A tall metal fence separated the empty floor from the spectator stands. The woman from before was already there, surrounded by a cluster of boys and girls who looked about my age. Mom stayed back by the entrance and motioned for me to join them. All right, almost everyone's here, she called, eyeing the small crowd. For those who just arrived, I'm Marge, and I look after the newbies. We'll start soon, but we're waiting on one more person. Give it a few minutes. When she finished, the group dispersed into low chatter. For a moment, it felt like a school event and not a den of freaks. Then I actually looked at the others. Some of them could have walked down any street and passed for normal. Others didn't. Red eyes, sickle claws, tattoos that crawled and reformed across someone's arm like a living map. I instinctively took a step back. Watch it, I heard, then bumped into two people talking. I froze because of their faces. The boy's features, eyes, nose, mouth, chin, were all upside down, as if his head had been attached the wrong way. The girl beside him had no face at all. Smooth, tinsel-like skin stretched flat over where her features should be. No problem, she said. Not out loud, not from any direction. Her words slid straight into my head like someone switching on a radio inside me. First time in a place like this? Huh? I had the same wide-eyed look when I first met other paranormals, the boy said, voice normal enough. Yeah, I managed. You look pretty normal. What's your knack? The faceless girl asked. My what? You know, your special thing. Knack, talent, blessing, curse, or whatever you want to call it. Tactile telekinesis plus limited telekinesis with small objects. Kinetic stuff can be pretty versatile, the boy nodded. Not mine. I've never fought paranormal opponents. I don't know what to expect. The girl didn't answer, but I could hear her giggling in my head. The boy looked at me. His upside-down grin looked sad at first glance. Well, that's gonna make today rough for you. Everyone, Marge barked. Our last newbie's here so we can begin. She waved us back from the arena floor to clear space. Above, the stands began to fill with friends, family, and whoever these kids had dragged along. I spotted Mom already in the crowd, and across from her, a faceless woman that had to be the faceless girl's mother. Then the final newbie arrived. At first, I thought a tank had wandered in on 2 legs. Then I realized it was a woman. Blonde braids were the only thing that marked her as female. Everything else screamed brick wall. She was built like she'd eaten 2 power lifters for breakfast. She carried something small in one of her hands. And beside her was a man barely half her size. They looked like the Hulk walking her stick figure husband. Please don't pair me with her, I prayed. Losing first would be humiliating enough. Losing to that would haunt me for the rest of my life, which would probably be a few minutes. All right, everyone,
"We'll begin the tournament," Marge announced. "This is just a test round, an initiation. No rankings, no stakes. I just want to know you guys. Think of it as a warm-up." Mom couldn't resist. "Max," she shouted from the seats, "if you lose your first match, you're sleeping in the doghouse." Laughter rolled through the crowd. My face burned. She's pulled that routine at other competitions too. Her sense of humor could kill at a dad joke convention. "Wait," the Amazon's voice thundered, in a thick German accent. She pointed at Mom. "Is that creepy?" "Yeah, that's her," Marge confirmed. Then she gestured at me. "Her son's competing." The woman's eyes locked onto me like I'd just been volunteered as her snack. And the matchups, you chose them yet?" "Not yet. I'll choose them randomly." "Then I choose Creepy's boy." "Of course," Marge nodded.
I was sprawled on the ground, bones aching, especially my ankle where Gunter had grabbed me. Gunter himself was back in the hands of his giant mother, looking perfectly content, as if he hadn't just tried to crush me into paste. "For his first match, that was quite good," said the scrawny man I assumed was his father, stroking the baby's rosy cheeks. Uberfrau, on the other hand, looked furious and more than a little disappointed. I forced myself to stand, dusting off my clothes. My ankle throbbed like hell, but at least it wasn't broken. If it were, there's no way I'd still be on my feet. "That was great," Marge said, clapping me on the shoulder hard enough to send a fresh jolt of pain down my arm. "Head to the medical room for a quick checkup." She turned and gestured to two others. "Hana, Bozo, you know the place. Show him the way." The first one I recognized immediately, the faceless girl from before. The other was a boy who looked like a circus reject, complete with purple hair, a big red nose, and full clown makeup. His shirt and shorts were dyed in chaotic colors that somehow made the look worse. They later explained these were just their stage names, not their real ones. For safety, I'll stick to those names here. "You got that baby good," Bozo said as we walked, each of his steps punctuated by a faint squeak. "Yeah, but you could have just finished him off. The Muskelman tribe is ridiculously durable. You could have punched him right in the face and he'd be fine," Hana added, her voice echoing straight into my skull. I didn't answer. Honestly, I was pretty sure I couldn't have beaten him. Gunter was a monster in every sense of the word, and I had no experience with fighting people like him. Bozo snorted. "Can't blame him. Just imagine the PR disaster if he actually decked a newborn. Doesn't matter what kind of creature he is, nobody wants their debut fight to be remembered as the guy who punched a baby. Bad start to a career." We reached the medical room soon after. My mother was already waiting at the door, arms crossed and a grin plastered on her face. "You two can head back," she told Hana and Bozo, shooing them away. The room inside was definitely not a normal medical room. Sure, there were some familiar things, beds, cabinets, the faint smell of antiseptic, but the rest looked like a nightmare from a museum. Non-human body parts floated in cloudy jars, some twitching slightly, as if still alive. Anatomical drawings covered the walls, but instead of humans, they showed centaurs, dragons, and stranger beings I couldn't even begin to recognize. "Claude, are you in here?" Mom called. Judging by the name I read on the certificates on the wall, this wasn't his real name. Later, Mom explained that nobody uses their real names there for safety, and it's also a superstition. A tall figure stepped in through a side door. He wore green scrubs, plus a cap and a mask. "Oh, he lost his first match?" Claude asked, muffled by the mask. "No, but he needs a check," Mom answered. I sat on one of the beds while Claude loomed closer. His hands moved with robotic precision as he examined me, tilting my ankle, tapping at my ribs. Nothing serious, but I can give him a little quick healer juice. Then his hand split open. A syringe extended from the back of his wrist like a hidden blade, already filled with a thick blue liquid. "Thanks, but I'm fine," I blurted. "I'll walk it off." "Don't be silly, Max," Mom cut in. "If you want to fight paranormals, sooner or later you'll need Claude's help. Better for your body to get used to this type of unusual medicine now." What kind of medicine?" I asked, staring at the syringe.
Inside the blue fluid, something was moving. A tiny humanoid with bat-like wings no bigger than the tip of my finger. Claude didn't answer. He just drove the needle into my arm. Half the liquid vanished into my vein before he pulled it back. "Half a dose is enough," he said calmly, and the syringe folded back into his flesh like it had never existed. "Or," I muttered, rubbing my arm, "you could have just told me first." At first, I felt nothing. Then the warmth started. It spread through my veins like liquid fire, chasing away every ache the fight had left behind. My ankles stopped throbbing, my ribs loosened, even the fatigue melted away, replaced with a restless energy like I just had the best nap of my life. "Wow, that's actually not bad," I admitted, standing and testing my weight. "It won't mend broken bones," Claude warned, "but skin and muscle, yes. Come back if anything worse happens." We stepped out just as two more kids came in, one half carrying the other. "That was wild," I said as we walked down the corridor. "It's just standard medicine. You'll get used to it." "No, I meant the fight with the monster baby." "Oh." Mom shrugged. "I've seen weirder things in the ring." Before I could argue, we passed two girls carrying a third on a stretcher. She was completely entangled in thick green vines, still twitching and writhing around her arms. Mom pointed me back towards the arena. "Go on. Marge said everyone has to stick around after their first fight." I walked off, not sure what Marge had in mind, but at least now I'd get a chance to watch the others. I witnessed some interesting fights. I won't describe all of them, but I will delve into the details of 3 cases that I found particularly interesting. For the record, I only use nicknames and stage names to refer to the fighters. The first one was between a boy called Armstrong and Bozo, the clown boy from earlier. Armstrong looked like the poster boy for Gym Rat. Broad shoulders, thick arms, and a chest like a slab of granite. But the moment they took the center, he showed what made him different. With a grunt, 2 extra arms tore their way out from his sides, then another pair sprouted from his back. Within seconds, he looked less like a boy and more like a one-man street gang. Every new limb flexed with the same power as his originals, veins pulsing as if they had their own hearts. Bozo, on the other hand, bounced into the ring like, well, a clown. His hair, which somehow switched from purple to blue, puffed up as he waved to the crowd. His nose squeaked when he tapped it, and he threw me a wink before dropping into a bizarre, wide-legged stance. Later, he explained that his clown-like appearance is completely natural. His hair changes colors at will, his big nose is naturally round, and his makeup is the actual pigmentation of his skin. "Ready? Fight," Marge called. Armstrong didn't waste time. 4 fists lashed out at once, snapping towards Bozo from different angles. It was like watching someone play Rock'em Sock'em Robots on fast forward. Bozo dodged the first, then the second, but the third clipped his shoulder and spun him halfway around. He laughed it off, cartwheeling backward, but Armstrong produced some extra long and flexible tentacle-like arms that shot out, hands whipping like bullwhips. One caught Bozo around the waist, yanking him back in with brutal force. The smack of Armstrong's fist against Bozo's cheek echoed through the arena. "Yikes," I muttered at one point, flinching. For the first part of the fight, Armstrong dominated. Every time Bozo squirmed free with his clownish antics, Armstrong's extra arms would snag him again. He was like a human octopus with anger issues. At one point, Armstrong wrapped 6 arms around Bozo and crushed him like a stress ball. That's when Bozo inflated. With a goofy grin, his belly swelled like a balloon. Then his arms and legs puffed up too. Within seconds, he looked like a clown-shaped sumo wrestler. The squeak of his overinflated skin made a couple kids in the audience snort with laughter. Armstrong wasn't laughing. He tried to choke Bozo with 2 tentacle arms, but they just sank into the squishy mass. Then Bozo belly flopped on him with the force of a beanbag chair the size of a car. The ground shook. "Clown fu at its finest," Bozo cackled, bouncing to his feet. For a minute, the fight evened out. Bozo used his bulk for stomps and belly smashes, while Armstrong countered with rapid grapples and punches from every direction. Armstrong's raw power was hard to beat. He caught Bozo mid-bounce, grabbed 2 of his inflated limbs, and with a roar, launched him across the arena. Bozo slammed into the metal wall with a hollow bong. "Yeah, that's it," Armstrong shouted, pumping an extra fist. But then Bozo bounced. Like a rubber ball, his body ricocheted off the wall, flew back across the arena, and slammed square into Armstrong's chest. The sound was like a car crash and a whoopee cushion happening at the same time. Armstrong staggered, but managed to throw up his fist armor. Dozens of overlapping hands covered his torso like scales, bracing for impact. Didn't matter. The bounce launched Armstrong across the ring and into the opposite wall. His fist armor absorbed some of the impact, but not enough. His head cracked against the concrete, and his extra arms all spasmed before vanishing back into his body. Armstrong slumped to the ground, out cold. For a second, the crowd was silent. Then laughter, cheers, and even some confetti from Bozo himself exploded around the ring. "And the winner is," Marge shouted, holding up Bozo's hand as he squeaked his nose triumphantly, "is Bozo!" Bozo bowed, still inflated, his body wobbling like a giant balloon animal. Then he deflated with a slow hiss, letting out a theatrical fart sound as he did. Armstrong was carried away on a stretcher. Bozo also had to visit the medical room since he had some light injuries as well, but he was soon back. The second match I want to describe was a few fights later. It was between Hana, the faceless girl, and a girl with antlers growing from her head. Next up, Hana versus Stagora, Marge announced them. Hana walked in first. She moved with eerie calm, like she didn't need to see. Her opponent Stagora looked more human at first, until the antlers sprouting from her skull twitched.
I managed to get a few more hours of sleep, and Mom was right. Claude's medicine was still working on me. The snake bite had already faded to a pale scar, and the bare claw marks looked like they were days old instead of just hours. By morning, the wounds were little more than scabs. "Great, you're in good shape to continue training," Mom said after checking my side. "Eat your breakfast and get ready." I forced down some toast with butter, but I had to keep myself from overeating. Mom was dangling her car keys, which meant we were going somewhere new, and I get carsick way too easily. "Where are we training today?" I asked as we pulled out of the driveway. "Back to Marge's arena?" "Nope," she shook her head. "I made some calls while you were sleeping. We've got plenty of options lined up for the whole week." "Oh, nobody minded you calling them in the middle of the night?" "The darkest hours are when the paranormals are the most active," Mom answered, lowering her voice like she was trying to sound mysterious and edgy. We still had some drive ahead, so I asked her a few things. "Why are you called creepy by the others? I mean, why an English word?" I asked. I didn't mention, but since I said the events took place in Hungary, you can guess that we were speaking in Hungarian. But Mom's nickname was an English word, which just sounded out of place. "On my first big match, one of the foreign guests referred to me as creepy because they got scared of me, and the local audience members who didn't speak English thought that it was my name, and they began calling me that." "Oh, so that's why. And why are you only showing me all of this crazy stuff now? Why not earlier?" She kept her eyes on the road. "Honestly, I just wanted you to have a normal childhood. I grew up knowing about this stuff, and it scared me half to death. I couldn't go to bed without checking the closet, under the bed, the attic, the basement, everything. It's too much for a kid to handle. Once your powers showed up, I couldn't keep it all hidden anymore, but at least I didn't have to dump the creepy details on you when you were little." I couldn't really argue with that. "And how many kinds of paranormals are out there?" I asked. "That's hard to answer. There are a lot, but finding solid data is nearly impossible since, well, it's all supposed to be secret." "Okay, and should I be worried about men in black knocking on our door?" "Only if they're Jehovah's Witnesses," Mom snorted. "Mom, no, you don't have to worry about government agents. They already know about the paranormal world." "Wait, seriously?" "You'd be surprised how deep government ties run in paranormal affairs across the globe. If it's so well known, then why keep it a secret from everyone else?" "I'll give you the history lesson later," she said, easing the car to a stop. "Right now, focus on training. We're here." I looked out the window. We were parked in front of an art gallery. Mom knocked on the glass door. The sign said closed, but I spotted a woman inside. She hurried over, unlocked the door, and waved us in. Come in. I've been expecting you to. She locked the door behind us, then pulled down the shutters over the windows and glass front. Thanks for accepting us on such short notice, Yoko. Are you sure it's not a problem to keep your gallery closed? Not at all. I already had to close to reorganize things, she shook her head. Hi, I mumbled awkwardly. Oh, hi. It was funny to see your match against Gunter yesterday, she said with a small smile. Who? I blinked. The baby, she clarified. What she actually said was the baby's real name, but I'll keep calling him Gunter. Not just for safety, the name itself was some twisted German tongue twister I couldn't even recall properly. Ah, oh, so you were there? Yes, I was my daughter's guest, Yoko replied. I tried to place who her daughter might be. She was Asian, probably Japanese. However, I couldn't recall any Asian girls in the tournament lineup. Is she here too? Mom asked. Yes, Yoko nodded, turning toward the back. Hana, our guests are here, she called out. I'm here, answered a younger girl as she hurried in. She looked like a younger copy of Yoko, around my age, same face, same features, but her appearance wasn't familiar to me. Neither was the name. The only thing that rang a bell was her voice. You can remove your disguise now, darling, Yoko said, and then, without hesitation, she dug her fingers into her own cheek and peeled her entire face away in one smooth pull, leaving behind a blank, featureless surface. Hana did the same, and in that instant, I recognized her. She was the faceless girl. So where's Max's next opponent? Mom asked after the greetings. Opponent? You mean her? Hana replied. If she'd still had a face, I'm pretty sure she'd be raising an eyebrow. Her voice echoed directly in my head, the way it always did. Who are you talking about? Hana means her. Yoko stopped, beside a large painting hidden under a blanket. With a flick, she pulled it away, revealing the portrait of an elegant woman in a black dress and white gloves. The kind of creepy, gothic prop you'd expect in a movie with a haunted mansion. You mean the painting? I pointed at the woman. Of course she does, an irritated voice answered. My stomach dropped as I realized it came from the painting itself. The woman shifted her pose, now glaring down at me with arms crossed. What the... That's a cursed painting, Yoko explained, matter-of-factly. Excuse me, I have a name, the painted woman snapped. She announced it in a long, rolling flourish of French syllables that flew right past me. Something like 6 hyphens and an accent grave in there. No chance I'd remember it, so I decided to nickname her Mona. You can probably guess why. She was almost certainly French. Her accent was the kind of dramatic, theatrical one where you know she could speak normally but insists on sounding exotic and mysterious. During this training, you'll learn how to dodge faster, Mom said, gesturing at the frame. She'll be your partner. A painting? Seriously? How fast can a painting even... Mona suddenly leaned forward. Her upper body slipped free from the canvas like she was stepping out of water, while her lower half stayed trapped in oil and frame. She raised her gloved fists in a perfect boxing stance. Observe, petite homme. Then she unleashed a blistering combination of jabs and hooks into the air. Her speed was insane, sharp, professional, and terrifying. My left hook is legendary. She brags a lot, but she's not wrong, Yoko admitted. Hana trained her reflexes with Mona too. It's a brutal challenge for beginners. Hana tilted her faceless head toward me, and isn't he too beginner? Yesterday was his first paranormal fight. Yes, Mom admitted. Then she smirked. A palm tree grows under strain. In Hungary, that proverb is the equivalent of a smooth sea never made a skilled sailor. I puffed myself up a little, still sore from last night, but too cocky to admit it. I just defeated a reanimated bear, so I think I can handle a painting. Let's move to my art room for the training. I don't want anything to be damaged here, Yoko said and led us to another room. You don't want to bring Mona? I asked, since we'd left the painting behind. She can follow us, Hana replied. I looked around and realized what she meant. Mona began appearing in other paintings along the walls as we walked, her eyes tracking me. "This will be your battlefield," Yoko announced as she opened the door. I had to stop for a moment and let the sight sink in. The entire room was painted. Walls, pillars, floor, and even the ceiling. Every square millimeter was covered in a vast mural that tied everything together. The floor depicted hell, with rivers of fire and grinning demons. The ceiling was heaven, filled with legions of angels staring down. The walls and pillars showed earth in all its beauty. Lush forests, towering mountains, glittering beaches, winding rivers, teeming with animals. Wow, that's beautiful. You painted this whole place? "Oh, you'll make me blush," Yoko chuckled. "It's not that great, but thank you." "Hey, once you two are done flirting, we can move on to the part where I make you kiss the ground," Mona's voice echoed from a pillar. "Are you sure you don't mind us using this room?" I asked Yoko. "Fight as much as you want. If something gets damaged, I can always paint over it," she shrugged. "Are you ready, Max?" Mom asked. "Yeah, but how am I supposed to fight her? She can reach out of the paintings, but I can't reach in." "You don't have to beat her." Mom shook her head. "The point of this training is to make you dodge. Once you can evade a series of her attacks perfectly, you'll pass the test." "How many attacks counts as a series?" 2 digits in a row. "So, at least 10? "Yes. And if you get hit even once, the count resets." "Got it." I nodded, stretched my arms, then stepped forward. My stomach twisted with nerves. It felt wrong to walk across such a beautifully painted floor, like I was about to scuff up a masterpiece. "I go and prepare the medkit," Hana said. First I thought she was just teasing, but she actually sounded serious. I soon found out why. I stood in the middle of the room trying to study my breathing. Mona's painted figure slithered across the murals around me like a shark circling prey. One moment she was strolling through a forest, the next she was framed by fire, her smirk sharp and mocking. "Ready to dance, little boy?" she asked, her voice rolling out of every wall at once. "Don't overthink it, Max," Mom called from the doorway. "Keep your eyes sharp, trust your instincts." Yeah, I muttered, flexing my fingers. Mona slipped into the heaven mural above me. For a second, she vanished among the crowd of angels, then she lunged downward. Her arms shot